Hello everyone, welcome to Bradley's Basement Blog, and I'm Tim Bradley, and here we are on another Doctor Who Mr. Men book review, and today we're looking at the third incarnation of the Doctor, Dr. Third. Now, you may have noticed that I do these reviews after attending a Doctor Who convention or a Comic-Con or something like that. The recent one that I attended was the Film and Comic-Con in Cardiff for March 2019. Now, that's not to guarantee that these book reviews will come out after I've attended a Comic-Con or convention, but that seems to be the pattern that I'm going with at the moment, and it seems to work okay. And, you know, I do enjoy doing these book reviews when I can, so I guess doing them after a convention is a good thing. I've also done another video from attending the Film and Comic-Con in Cardiff this year, in March, but that'll be something for you to find out later on in the year. But yeah, let's talk about the third incarnation of the Doctor in Mr. Men form, Jon Pertwee's third Doctor. And judging by this book cover, you can see that this is the Doctor Who version of Mr. Uppity. But that's something we'll get into when I talk about the book itself in the review. And this is part of the third batch of books, of Doctor Who Mr. Men books, that was released in February 2018. And this included Doctor Third, Doctor Fifth, Doctor Sixth, and Doctor 10th. Now, that would have been the end of the Doctor Who Mr. Men books series if it was not for the fact that Jodie Whittaker's Doctor was also transformed into Mr. Men form, or Little Mrs. form. Anyway, if it wasn't for the fact that we had a Doctor Who Mr. Men book of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor released in October 2018. But hey, since Doctor Who is ongoing at the moment, I don't see how this book series can stop anytime soon. So maybe we might get more Doctor Who Mr. Men books in the future. As such, let's take a look at Dr. Third and find out what the Doctor, who is exiled to Earth, is like in the Jon Pertwee form, and what he does with his friends in an adventure that he has with them in this, as well as finding out how the silliness in Doctor Who translated into Mr. Men form will look like in this book. Enjoy! Dr. Third features the Third Doctor, of course, along with Mike Yates, Liz Shaw, and Joe Grant. Yeah, how Liz and Joe can be together in this book is a bit of a mystery to me, but we'll get to that in a bit. And just to warn you in advance, the Brigadier doesn't appear in this book at all. Wow, how shocking is that? I mean, the Brigadier was like an essential member of the unit team during the Jon Pertwee era of Doctor Who. How come he doesn't appear in this book? Benton doesn't appear either. Neither does Roger Delgado's Master. How come these three certain characters in Doctor Who during the Jon Pertwee era don't appear in this, what is supposed to be a Jon Pertwee era Doctor Who story in Mr. Men form? Anyway, as you can see from the book cover, the Jon Pertwee Doctor in Mr. Men form looks very much like Mr. Uppity. He's holding the sonic screwdriver in his left hand, and he looks all very proud, prim and proper, as well as wearing a bow tie, which is green. I am sure the Jon Pertwee Doctor smiled on occasions in the series. We open the book with Jon Pertwee's Doctor driving in Bessie, his trusty yellow roadster. And, by the way, I have checked every page of this book, and the Doctor rarely smiles at all. He looks either grumpy, miserable, or annoyed. Why didn't Adam Hargreaves have the Doctor smile at points in this book? The Doctor had been out shopping, and he was rushing back to his laboratory in Bessie, his little yellow car. Surely, Doctor, the Brigadier can wait for those reports you're supposed to give him at Unit HQ. Also, why would the Doctor go out shopping? Surely they have enough tea and sugar in the unit kitchens. Or is this part of his daily shop that he usually does when staying at his little cottage? Yeah, apparently in the comic stories made at the time during the Jon Pertwee era, the Doctor stayed in a little cottage. There's also a Big Finish short trip audio that has the Doctor living in a cottage, called A True Gentleman, read by Keating Manning. Check that out, it's really good. No time to waste, he murmured to himself. You can see how much of a hurry the Doctor is in by that angry-looking expression on his face. Seriously, Doctor, just for once, please smile! Also, is Bessie driving at a high speed according to that puff of smoke by the front wheel underneath the car in this picture? The Doctor was in a terrific hurry. Yeah, we got that notion. Thank you, book. Now, Bessie was no ordinary car. The Doctor had added a few special modifications, one of which was a hyperdrive button that would make Bessie travel at supersonic speeds. Which is why, in 5 seasons of John Pertwee's era of Doctor Who, the hyperdrive in Bessie was only used in one story, The Time Monster. 2 if you're counting the Green Death as well. The Doctor was about to press the button when he spotted someone waving on the side of the road. I can just imagine the Doctor getting annoyed by someone blocking the road and him shouting, "Get out of the way, you lunatic! Get out of the way!" Now, on first glance, you would think that that might have been the Brigadier in the middle of the road, blocking the Doctor's path in Bessie. But it's only when you look at him again that you can see it's Mike Yates, minus the moustache here. Also, see when the Doctor's about to press the big red button for Bessie's hyperdrive? There's a lightning bolt symbol up on top of it. Is that supposed to be a sound effect or something? Or is that part of the car's interior design? Why would there be a lightning bolt inside the car's cockpit when the Doctor's driving Bessie? Unless, of course, Bessie was created by Zordon of the Power Rangers. Now, that would make sense. And as the book clearly likes to let you know and identify who it was that blocked the Doctor's path in the middle of the road, it turns out to be Mike Yates. Gosh, I would never have guessed that. It turns out that Mike Yates' Land Rover had broken down. I wonder if Mike left Sergeant Benton behind at the Land Rover, or even the Brigadier, when he went to call for help. It would give an explanation as to why Benton and the Brigadier are absent in this story. "Hello," said Mike. "Any chance of a lift?"
Yes, said the Doctor agitatedly. "But make it quick. I need to get back to the lab as soon as possible."
Not meaning to jump ahead here, but I'm wondering why the Doctor needed to get back so urgently to the unit lab to do what he wanted that was so urgent. We'll get to that part when we get to the end of the book. "Blimey, sounds important," said Mike, jumping in. "Thank you for sharing my thoughts on the Doctor's urgency to get back to the lab as soon as possible, Mike Yates." The Doctor nodded. "It is," he said, roaring off down the road. And goodness me, look at that trail of smoke running behind Bessie as the Doctor puts her into gear. You're going to cause a lot of pollution with that car of yours, Doctor. Joe Grant would not approve. It even startles the worm in the ground. Look at the worm! He's so startled to see John Pertwee's Doctor and Mike Yates driving in Bessie at a furious speed with a trail of smoke right behind them. The Doctor hasn't even put the car into hyperdrive yet. Mike Yates continues to inquire the Doctor about why he seems to be in such a hurry all of a sudden. "Some sort of experiment, is it?" asked Mike. "You might say that," muttered the Doctor. And again I have to raise the Doctor's grumpiness in his tale. Look, I know John Pertwee's Doctor could get a little grouchy and irritable at times, but he had a charming sense of humour squeezed into his character. Could we see more of that in this book, please? Anyway, the Doctor was again about to press the hyperdrive button when they saw someone on the side of the road. Again. Yeah, this seems to be a running joke in the book. The Doctor's about to press the hyperdrive in Bessie before he spots someone he recognises in order to pick him or her up. Just to remind you, Bessie is a 4-seater, so there are only about 3 people the Doctor can fit inside his yellow car. And it turns out the person that the Doctor saw was Liz Shaw, who was just coming out of the library. Her arms were full of very heavy-looking science books. And yikes, look at how many books Liz is carrying in this picture. There are so many of them, they're even covering her face that we can't see her. Don't worry, we'll get to see what Liz looks like later on in the book. Although I'm wondering where this book takes place in the Doctor Who continuity. Does this take place after Inferno, where Liz left UNIT to return to Cambridge? You could say it takes place during her time in UNIT, considering Mike Yates appeared in some of the Big Finish audios she was in during the Season 7 period. But then there's Joe Grant appearing in the book, which we'll get onto in a bit. "That's Liz," said Mike. "Thanks for pointing out the obvious, Mike. Looks like she needs a lift."
I'm starting to sound like Basil Fawlty, where I think I should put Mike Yates on a mastermind for his special subject on the pretty obvious. Hell's bells, grumbled the Doctor, pulling over to let Liz in. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Language, Doctor! That's the first time I've come across it in a Mr. Men book. A children's book, no less, where the word hell gets used. I mean, even an expression like hell's bells wouldn't be appropriate for this interpretation of the Doctor. Couldn't he have said great balls of fire, like he did in the Five Doctors? I'm not sure if John Pertwee's Doctor in Mr. Men form is sounding a lot like Basil Fawlty or Martin Bryce from Ever Decreasing Circles in this book. Make it quick, said Mike. To Liz, I presume. It's not made clear in the book. The Doctor is in a terrible hurry. Some sort of urgent experiment. An experiment so urgent that I don't think it was really worth it at all in the end. But like I said, we'll get to that bit when we come to the end of the book. Really? Said Liz. Anything interesting? Very, said the Doctor, jamming Bessie into gear. And we can see how cheerful looking Liz is in this picture of the book when she joins in Bessie, compared to the Doctor, who has a bit of a miserable or awkward looking expression on his face. Seriously, why doesn't the Doctor smile in this book? Or is this the closest to a goofy expression on his face like John Pertwee's Doctor tends to make when he does goofy expressions in stories like the Silurians, when they come up behind him or something? I bet it's a top-secret experiment, suggested Mike. Possibly, said the Doctor tensely. For the third time that day, he was about to press hyperdrive, yeah, you know where this is all going, when their journey was interrupted again. It was Jo Grant. They stopped to give her a lift. And wow, the car Bessie is full up with the Doctor, Mike, Liz and Jo. Jo looks pretty cheery in her pink body and yellow hair, doesn't she? Liz and Mike look cheery too. But the Doctor seems pretty annoyed that he's got 3 people in the car with him. Seriously, Doctor, you know who these people are. They're your friends. The least you can do is smile and be happy to see them. In fact, I think the reason why the Brigadier and Benton aren't in this book is because they ran out of car spaces in Bessie for the 2 to join in. I think it would have been really great if the Doctor and company met up with the Brig and Benton on the road and said, "Sorry, old chap, the car's full. You have to get a bus." That would have been funny to see and read in the book. And this is what I wanted to bring up regarding Liz and Jo being in the same book together. There is a Doctor Who story in book form from BBC Books called The Wages of Sin, where Liz and Jo meet. I'm not sure if this story is set after that story, or if this is an alternative timeline where Liz never left UNIT and she and Jo worked with the Doctor for the rest of the John Pertwee era. It is possible, I'll give it that. Anyway, it was a very overloaded Bessie, now that they set off again. A very overloaded and slow Bessie. So essentially what that means is no hyperdrive to be used today. That's a bit annoying. Good grief, cried the Doctor in exasperation. Gosh, the Doctor was so looking forward to using Bessie's hyperdrive today, wasn't he? Especially to get back to the lab in a hurry for his urgent experiment. Whatever the point of that experiment was. Anyway, as the Doctor and company and Bessie are driving home, the group discovers something peculiar in the weather. Is it starting to snow? Asked Jo. It is, replied Mike. Wow, that seems pretty unexpected. Was this mentioned in the weather forecast? How odd. Snow in the middle of summer, commented Liz. If you think that's odd, Liz, you should visit Nonsense Land, where Mr. Silly lives. They have snow there that happens to be yellow. Oh yeah, you don't forget things like that when you're reading Mr. Men books as a kid. That was actually Mr. Nonsense, really. By the way, is that a boot Jo is wearing in this picture of the book? You know, one of those long, kinky boots that Katie Manning wore in the TV series as Jo. I wonder how tall Jo is in Little Mrs. form in the book. Anyway, in the next picture, we can see how much snow is falling by the time the Doctor gets out of the car. And he's not looking too happy, as you can see in this picture. I think it's getting worse, said Jo. And indeed it was. They were suddenly driving through a blizzard. Oh no, the gang have lost their way, and they've driven into Cold Land, where Mr. Sneeze lives. By the end of this book, our heroes are going to get some red noses, and they're going to go sneezing, achoo, achoo, aren't they? And then, without any warning, Bessie skidded sideways and slid into a ditch. Blast! Cried the Doctor in consternation. Again, what is it with the swearing by the third Doctor in this book? I don't recall John Pertwee doing a lot of that in his era of the show. He said strange words like Jehoshaphat, but that was acceptable as far as I was concerned. It made him dandy. I don't think the John Pertwee Doctor in this Mr. Men book is dandy enough. As they were trying to lift Bessie back onto the road, a line of figures appeared on the ridge above them. Crikey! Cried Liz. Those are Ice Warriors! Wait, had Liz met Ice Warriors before in Doctor Who? I know she's had more stories since the 4 she did on TV, but I don't recall there being a story where Liz was with the Doctor and they met Ice Warriors. I'm more inclined to give that line to Jo instead of Liz, since Jo met Ice Warriors in the Curse of Peladon. In fact, why wasn't that line given to Jo? You can clearly see Jo in this picture with Liz here when they see the Ice Warriors. They must have made the snow, said Mike. Do I really need to say, well done, Mike, for stating the pretty obvious again? The Ice Warriors then raised their sonic disruptors and fired at the snowy slope, setting off a huge avalanche. Those look more like flamethrowers rather than sonic disruptors. Shouldn't that be more sonic-y than fiery when they're firing at the snowy slope to set off that avalanche? Also, it looks like the Ice Warriors are holding the sonic disruptors in their, well, hands for a better term, whereas in the show they had weapons attached to their arms. Quick! Cried the Doctor. Everyone back in the car! Yes, after being out of the car for a short while, you immediately get back into it. I thought you were trying to push the car out of the snow before the Ice Warriors came, Doctor. The avalanche thundered down the hill, threatening to engulf them. But at the last moment, the Doctor hit hyperdrive. Yeah, because that works. Why didn't you use the hyperdrive before when you were caught in the snow, Doctor? Especially when you seemed to be in such a hurry. A hurry for an experiment that makes no sense by the time we get to the end of the book. Bessie lurched forward and the avalanche lifted them up out of the ditch. And wow, look at that trail of fire escaping from Bessie's exhaust. It looks like Bessie's about to lift off into the sky. In fact, I wonder if Bessie is lifting off into the sky. Is the blue background meant to be the sky or the other side of the road where there is no snow? The hyperdrive allowed them to surf on top of the advancing avalanche. Oh yeah, that works. I mean, I can see Bessie surfing on an avalanche to escape danger very safely. I don't think the science in these Doctor Who Mr. Men books works all that well, or as logically as Mr. Spock from Star Trek would put it. And finally we get closer to what the crux of this story has been about. As the avalanche slowed, Bessie shot clear of the snow and back onto the safety of the road. Somehow, miraculously, apparently. Well done, Doctor! Cried Mike. But the Doctor was still in a dreadful hurry. We must get back to the lab before it's too late, he cried. He screeched to a halt outside the lab and grabbed a grocery bag out of the car. What is that red square on the grocery bag? Is that supposed to be a brand of some kind? Is that what the Tesco brand looked like back in the 1970s or 80s? It could easily be a learner's bag, especially with the way the Doctor's been driving Bessie, and with the colour texturing of the red square over white, making it almost look like an L plate. The others, that is Jo, Liz and Mike, followed excitedly, wondering what amazing event they were about to witness. I wouldn't get too excited if I were you readers, as I'm sure you're in a big disappointment for what this experiment that the Doctor's hoping to carry out is in this book. In the laboratory, they, that is Jo, Liz and Mike of course, crowded around as the Doctor pulled a tub out of the bag. That's ice cream! Exclaimed Liz. Yes! That's what the Doctor has been shopping all this time. Ice cream. Well, it was a hot, sunny day, wasn't it? Before it snowed heavily later that day. What was all the rush about? Asked Mike. Indeed, Mike, that is a very good question from you. What was all the rush about? Well, it doesn't seem like we're going to get an answer, as the Doctor pulled the lid off the tub. Bother! He cried, crestfallen. Well, at least he didn't swear this time. And what is it that's got the Doctor so dismayed when he opened the lid off the ice cream tub? It's melted! Mike and Liz and Joe all looked at the doctor. You mean that was what was so urgent? Laughed Joe. Yeah, I agree with Joe. Was that really urgent? Getting a tub of ice cream back to the unit lab? What was the point of purchasing ice cream anyway? Was it so you could have some ice cream later on during the day when doing your experiments at the lab? Heck, you said it was so urgent and we never get to know the reason for why you wanted that ice cream. No, seriously, we don't get an explanation for it. Or is this, I'll explain later, Rowan Atkinson's doctor all over again? Also, wouldn't the snow from earlier have frozen the ice cream when they were out in Bessie? Not melted it? Unless it was the doctor's fiery hyperdrive in Bessie that caused it to melt so quickly. But even then, that is a big stretch. The doctor glowered at the tub of ice cream. Where's an ice warrior when you need one? He huffed. Well, don't worry, Doctor. There's an ice warrior outside the window, holding an ice cream cone in his right hand and licking his lips. Ugh, that's creepy. Also, do ice warriors eat ice cream? Then again, ice warriors would later eat frozen fish fingers in the Big Finish audio Thin Ice, so who am I to judge? Incidentally, what were the ice warriors doing on Earth anyway? Was it an invasion plan? Were they going to try and freeze the Earth like they did to Magnus in the Big Finish audio story Mission to Magnus? We don't get an explanation for why the ice warriors were on Earth either. Does any of this make any sense? Dr. Third is pretty weird throughout, but I have to say, it was fun to read. I know I've poked fun of the book throughout the review, but I am a little put off by the Doctor's inability to smile in the book. There weren't any recognisable "my dear old chap" quotes to be featured in the book itself. It was nice to see Mike, Joe and Liz in the book with the Doctor, and it was funny when the Doctors kept stopping Bessie to pick people up. I just wish the Brigadier and Sergeant Benson were in this story as well, as they were central to the Third Doctor era as well. I'm surprised that Roger Delgado's master was not included in the book either. The Doctor's urgency to get back to the lab because he bought some ice cream is pretty bizarre, and doesn't add up in terms of the story's plot and the Ice Warrior's presence on Earth by making it snow in summer, which is nonsensical anyway. I can imagine time was running out for the proper story to be told in this. Otherwise, I did enjoy reading Dr. Third. It's like what Dr. First and Dr. Second were in their interpretations of the Doctor in those particular incarnations. They're not accurate in matching to the TV counterparts, but the books themselves are child-friendly enough. Well, mostly child-friendly. I mean, the Doctor declaring "Hell's bells" and blast. I mean, was that really appropriate for a kid's book? Thank you for watching this review by me on Dr. Third. Hope you've enjoyed it. Next time, I'll be taking a look at the fourth book in the series, Dr. Fourth. Sarah Jane is in that one, as well as the Daleks. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.